Hmm. I have to see if this thing actually works first. Yeah, there we go. We'll see. Get a sound check here real quick. And then we can start. I have to see if this thing actually. There we go. Sounds good. Everything sounds good. So this is my Sunday, usual Sunday broadcast. Go your own way, men. Go your own way. Hello, Assassin's Creed. Hello, everybody that's going to come in, and we're just setting up now. It's late. I know. I've been watching football all day. That's what I've been doing. I've been trying to take a break, not think about things, relax, take it easy. This weekend was a rough weekend. A lot of work to be done and all that stuff. So I finally got a break, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going to do a podcast. I don't really know what I'm going to do. I think we're going to talk about conformity. We're going to talk to males about male slavery and stuff like that. Male slavery, it's not talked about a lot. We bring it up, the issue, a lot in Mgtow, because we see child support and alimony and all that stuff as male slavery. I think Mgtow see it right, and there's a few questions that we have to ask ourselves about that. The way the law reads on male slavery is it comes from the 13th Amendment of the United States. Slavery is pretty much illegal in the United States, and there are exceptions for when slavery is legal in certain terms in the United States. And I put it in a low bar down there. It's down there, yeah. Neither slavery or nor involuntary servitude or work slavery, forced work slavery and stuff like that. There's several different kinds. We can go off into many routes, is legal in the United States except for punishment to a crime. This is a little low. I don't know how that got a little low like that. I got to raise that up. It just kind of sags over time, and I miss it. And yeah, so slavery is legal in the United States if it's a punishment for crime. Well, when the party has been duly convicted, only after a person has been duly convicted or committed. But slavery is one person working for another person without pay, or not receiving the pay, or some sort of in the 1920s and 30s, it was, land slavery. People were promised land that they were never going to get. That was Jim Crow laws and stuff like that. That's also slavery. In our child support laws and our health and human services laws, you get a divorce, you go before a judge, you are being adjudicated by a judge. And this is my thought. It was sort of weird that they'll say, oh, well, this is legal because you've been adjudicated, but you weren't punished for anything that you were duly convicted of. So one thing precedes another thing during these things, or divorce is illegal. Now that was a question I got in my head. Well, if you're asking the state for a divorce, is that illegal? And I couldn't get a real good answer for that. And the other answer I couldn't get at the end of this thing, when a person is enslaved to a work system or something where he's not getting paid, he's forced on a farm or something like that, which we give that analogy all the time. You're on the plantation, you're forced on this farm, this plantational farm where you have to work for another person for their survival, and then you don't get the money. That's slavery. That's the most common type of slavery. The most common type of slavery is work slavery, and that's what men do. Men volunteer for this kind of work slavery in the blue pill world out there. In the blue pill world, the men volunteer for that. Slavery is illegal in America. But the last question about that, are you allowed to use force to get out of slavery? And that would be the 3 steps of it. Most of the time, and we can look at from the times of Moses and the times of the Egyptians, from the times of Civil War in the United States and everything, antebellum slavery and stuff like that. People were put in slavery, and I've always laughed about slavery a little bit because 20 to 30% of the world are slaves, just not knowing it. They're put into work. The estimates are about 24 million. I think that is low when you do the research on it, because I think any man that's ever went through a divorce in America found himself on the bad end of the stick there and has been put in slavery. It is slavery because, and that brings up a few thoughts for me. That when you hit that divorce court, did you lose all your rights? Were you being adjudicated at that point? Because slavery is defined as you can lose your rights to your citizenship and all that, and punishment for a crime wherefore if you're duly convicted. And that's in our 13th Amendment. That's simply written in there. But that would mean that asking for the way these things precede each other is 72% of females, and I think it's higher. Most men don't ask for the divorce. They don't go down and file for a divorce. If you're a male, and this comes into the pronoun argument and stuff. The pronouns that are used in our legal system usually exclude father, male, men, and stuff like that, and they usually include female. They'll include a skin color, or they'll include a gender, which is female, but it never includes men in these pronouns. And that's always my argument with these anti-pronoun people is like, don't you know what you're saying? Because if you're looking at that correctly, you would want to have the pronoun men put in there, so you get all the pluses and benefits of the legal system. But right now, men don't have the pluses and benefits. That's what makes a divorce. As soon as you end up in that courtroom, you are being adjudicated by a judge. You are being duly convicted of a crime when you're getting divorced, and that crime enables the judge to adjudicate you and put you in slavery. That's what they're saying. And it just seemed kind of weird to me that one thing precedes another. Like I said, you aren't convicted of any crime unless the act of divorce itself, unless it's assumed beforehand that you are a criminal as a man. Hello, Nino. Hello, Assassin's Creed. Being married is slavery. Yes, being married can be considered being slavery. So when you go before that judge as a man, you're already considered a criminal, and that gives the judge the ability to give you the punishment and alleviate you from your protection of the 13th Amendment, and pretty much your protection of another amendment, 14th and the 17th, and those. And there's debtor's prison that comes along after that. And what I was thinking about was the way these things usually occur. Guy gets behind on his child support, which is the judge saying but the judge has already said that you will pay this person through the court, and this person will get your money, which is the legal definition of slavery. Slavery is one person working for another without pay. And that's the most common kind of slavery. We got this thing so backwards, and nobody ever asked the question, hey, what did I do as a male to be, I'm being adjudicated here. My punishment for the act of a divorce is going to be slavery. So what did I do to deserve this? What was the law that I broke? And the only thing I could think of was, well, you're a man and you're in a divorce court, so the act of divorce to a man is sort of a reverse Shi'i law, where you've already committed the religious crime. And we do know a lot of our laws and are religious in nature. They derive from religion and everything. So in this case, in this neo-Christianity sort of system that we have here in America, because everybody's always, oh, well, yeah, we're so much different than over there in the Shiite thing. It must be a crime to get a divorce. It must be a crime to be a man. That's the only reason a judge could possibly give you the punishment of slavery. I mean, yeah, these things are a modus preposendi. They go in order. There's an order to it. There's a modem to these things, and one of the few things that I could see that doesn't really follow any kind of order would be any kind of divorce papers and stuff like that. And that was always a heavy thought on my head. It's like, how could this precede this? I haven't. If you could just say nothing, and you have the right to take the fifth, in a divorce court, you could just say, just do this. I don't know. I take the fifth. I don't know. I take the fifth. And then you don't violate any crimes. You don't agree to anything. There could not be a decision of slavery against you. And when one person gives money to another and doesn't, one person works for another, and the other person, that's slavery. That's the very definition of slavery, male slavery. And in the United States is one of those things. And in most countries it is. I'll say the United States or the state I live in Ohio, is no fault slavery. Yeah, Frank, you got it. No fault slavery. It's no fault slavery. As soon as you hit that courtroom, there must have been some pre-decision that you are a criminal already for being involved, for not making a girl happy. That must have been your crime, not making a female happy, because there was this pre-decision that gives the judge the right to put you in no fault slavery. Because that's logic. I mean, screw me for being all logical and stuff here. And but one thing does precede another in these things. As soon as she filed for divorce, and it's, it started like Me Too, Believe the Women. So she files for divorce, and you're the bad guy, or whoever. So that was always my complaint with the way people go, oh, well, 50-50. You know why 50-50? When we ask when you ask a lawyer how many people get married, well, he's like 50-50. Because there's two people, and from his opinion, you got two people. One person files for a divorce, and the other person gets a judgment of divorce. Them are two different things. So that's 50-50, unless there's three. That's why you can't have polygamy, because then there would be three, and you can't have that. So that's why they always say 50-50, and their logic, and their screwed up logic in their mind. That's why a lawyer always says, well, it's 50-50 because there's two people. Now, when you think about two people entered, one person gets a divorce, and then you have people, first, second, and third offenders, and the rate right now sits at 68. It's really 100 and some percent. I figured it out one day that there's between people that get married and people that it's an obscene amount, and some people will say it's up to 82%. We're really never going to know what that is, what that divorce rate is, but we do know most of the time 98%, almost 98% of the time, females will get a decision in that. Even if you file, they're gonna flip-flop that thing, and the decision will say this is the decision for the female against the male, and you've already committed a crime. It must be, unless you can prove her incompetent, which is, my God, I've seen women, I've seen women, in most of the time, they were crackheads. They didn't have a job. They were on welfare, and the judge, okay, she gets the kids, but you get to pay for it, because we're going to adjudicate you, and then you lose your right to freedom in America because you're a man, and that was your crime. You were born with a dangler. Yeah. Do not date, and divorce is that's what I always say, Nino. I says, you know what? You know how to get rid of all divorce? Get rid of marriage, because if you never get married, you can't get a divorce. You'll never get a divorce if you never get married, which brings up my next topic. I was listening to LFA this week, and he has the steps of Mgtow, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I don't believe in the steps of Mgtow. I believe that you're either a Mgtow and you don't do these things, and you've examined the risk and you said no. Well, you can keep all that. And that used to be the original Mgtow's in the Sandman in his infinite simpness or whatever he wanted to do at that point. He says, well, I got to get some of that, split V. And I got to make some new rules here. So LFA went down today, and he considers himself a level 2 or something like that. But level 1 it was funny. I was just starting to laugh when he said it. He says, level 1 Mgtows are men that date and still go out with women and ignore the risk, and they can get engaged, and they can even get married and be in long-term relationships with women. And that's not much of a Mgtow. That's what I would consider that as a blue pill person. That's just a regular blue pill. All the guys out there are doing that, every single one of them. And if Mgtow now includes 1 and 2s as that, then we're just saying, well, every guy can be a Mgtow, and he can just claim that he somehow has this red pill awakening. He knows something that nobody else in the world knows. He knows he's got this. He's been awakened by some supreme power up there, or some supreme knowledge hit him, and nobody else knows this stuff. And that's ridiculous. That's obfuscation, and that's ridiculous. Who is self-actualized? Hello, Mgtow Sky. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know what that's. I did a thing on that self-actualization a while ago. You're self-actualized. Yeah, that's weird. I really don't have those kind of thoughts. That's the SPI thing. What is SPI? I don't even self-personalized individual. There's a lot of different things that came off of Mgtow. We used to have Mgtow. Now we got Mgtow Igmors, self-actualized males. We got Ibmors, and we got and they're fracturing off. Now we got alt-righters and a political Trumpism, which is very popular nowadays. Somehow the Republican Party and the alt-right is going to save men. I call it conservatism, because that's another dragon. They just need another demon. They got another demon to point their lance on, like their Sir. What is that? He's going to go fight with windmills with this evil demon, these evil libbies out there, and they're out there everywhere, and they're ruining your life. And men fail to articulate those things, so they make up a demon in their head. I think feminism is that same demon too. There's this evil dragon out there called feminism, and we're going to slay it. Yeah, that worked out over the last 40 years or so. Fighting with windmills was never my thing. Yeah, it's got to be a real enemy, but this is leading to all kinds of violence in our country. Violence in our country is there's this herd mentality too in Mgtow. You got to be a part of this group, so you have to believe what they believe and everything. And I'm one of these guys that kind of rub against the grain on these things. I don't have to believe what what these people believe in their screwed up little minds, because I believe in anonymity. Well, I believe that each person has this autonomy to them, and we get this argument, ad popularum or something. So you have to believe there's bandwagons of facts, the collective. How many things are there? Let me look this up real quick and see how many. And I know there's conformity and early adoption, and there's the Delphi method and stuff like that. Crowd psychology, groupthink, herd mentality. Let me get some more of them up. The bandwagon, collective intelligence. Like they share some collective intelligence. As long as you're in this group, you have the shared collective intelligence that you know something that everybody else doesn't know, and all that stuff. There's sheeple, I guess, and Nishiki talked about a lot of this stuff, and group intelligence and crowd. I just think it's conformity. There's a lot of herd mentality and conformity. If you don't conform to the group, um, then you're not going to be invited to all the parties and stuff that they're having. Conformity is an act of matching attitudes and beliefs and behaviors, the group norm. So we're talking about group norms. Norms are implicit to society. Norms are but they take it too far a lot of times. When we're talking about group norms, we're talking about laws and stuff like that. And then you start getting into the collective mentality of the group and the group thinking everything. Peer pressure has a lot to do with it. They use it a lot in predictive marketing. What was the guy's name that Freud's brother-in-law invented? Predictive marketing. He was going to wanted to sell cigarettes to females. So he implied that if all the girls smoked cigarettes, that would make them strong, powerful girls. And that's the first time we've seen that collective mentality, the conformity in women. That he's going to market these cigarettes at these women, and then all the women in New York were marching up and down the street, and the men were going, oh, "Look at the women are smoking cigarettes." Bernays. It was Bernays. Bernays marketing is predictive marketing, and but there's this thing about there's supposed to be some collective mass, in critical mass, and social dynamics comes into place there. And I think that when we talk about critical mass and social dynamics, some people got that totally wrong. Critical mass, we got this group intelligence that they think they share is a shared group intelligence that's emerges from this collaboration, and something's going to happen there if you get this common enemy. The collective effort of all these things will it's going to push your way. But that's what men's rights was back in the day, and before that, Mesopoetic era and all that. And it's always men's rights in some way. The manosphere is a new thing because we have a way to talk with each other now, and we pretty much have a way to do mass peer reviews and stuff like that, and find out if you believe what I believe and everything. And that's Mgtow. Mgtow is sort of this group intelligence, but conformity is one of the problems with this. With conformity, there's problems with conformity. Do you know if there used to be this and back in the 60s, I thought it was brilliant. It used to hang in Oberlin College, 70s, and it hung up there till about when I was there. It was like 1980, 1990 something. So there's this poster that hung up in there, and it started off with big letters about that big, and it said, "Don't be a conformist." And it says, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and don't do this. And if you do this, you're going to be a conformist. And the letters worked down real small as they went. It was a blue poster. You may have seen it if you're a little older, and it worked down in a triangle shape. And on the last bottom thing, it said, if you do everything on this, then you're conforming to conformity. And don't be a conformist. So if you jump on this mass bandwagon that's coming along now, you're just going to be a conformist to the group, and then the same problems, group thinker behavior, crowd psychology and all that stuff is going to become a problem unless you practice your anonymity. Not anonymity. You practice your being a Mgtow. You're a sovereign male. That's the only way to get out of this thing. You say, I'm a sovereign male. I'm going to do what I want as a Mgtow. I'm going to do these things the way not going to get married. I'm not going to do that dating the way they want me to date. I'm going to look at the risk because I don't want to end up a slave. That's what we were talking about before. And that's why this whole thing works out so nicely. Don't be in a herd. I see a lot of herd mentality around. Herd mentality is the worst thing. I think herd mentality is just it's just terrible. It's gang mentality. We see a lot of gang mentality with what was that? Gavin McGinnis running around with his sword. He looks so silly. And he's such a sissy too. Holding up a big sword. Gavin McInnes with a big sword. He's got arms this big, and he looks like a queer. And I think I think he's the biggest. And he was waving that sword like this, like he was kind of gay or something. And I thought, yeah, that's just perfect. That's gang mentality. And they beat up those three really highly effeminate guys there. And lately we've been having a problem with that kind of mentality turning the gang mentality, the pack mentality, the mob mentality, the herd mentality turning into violence lately. We've seen it in Florida recently, Pittsburgh. It was Pittsburgh he went into a synagogue this morning, or was it yesterday morning, and he shot up a synagogue, and he was in that alt-right crowd that, what do they call them? What do they call those? The Jew world order guys. They hate the Jews, and he was going to do the world a favor, but and that's that herd mentality. That's when you get sucked into what we know as like a cult. But then Messenger. If you didn't see it today, Messenger did a very good video on the cult mentality and the pack mentality. What's the difference between a cult and that and everything? He did a very good job on that. But I think we're getting this cult mentality to this alt-rightism because we've had some shootings, and we had some bombs being mailed, and I just laugh about. There's got to be much more efficient ways that you can do that than mailing them. But he got caught. And that guy was a real wacko. He was one of these. He's alt-right Trumpists. He was gonna blow up all the evil libbies, and in America, you have the right to choose those things, don't you? You can be a tradesman like me. I'm a tradesman. I believe in trade unions. I believe in unions. I believe in those things. Otherwise, we don't have a voice, and they just pay you what you want. And that's a form of servitude. That's a form of slavery. Without a trade union, if they get rid of all your gun rights and your ability to have a trade union, what they're saying is you will work for this amount of money. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about work slavery. We're talking about male slavery. And then you should be a pro-tradesman union person, because that's what keeps you from being a slave to the elite. Otherwise, the elite will just say, this is what we're going to pay you, and we're not going to pay you a dime more. And that might be substandard. And you have to do it to eat. And that's the thing. You have to do it to eat. So that becomes in itself slavery. And slavery is one of the things that I often think about in Mgtow. Yeah, let me see. A concealed carry permit is the best way to protect. Yeah, you can get a concealed carry permit. Yeah, I wish most people conceal carry permits, and Trump is a puppet. Yeah, he is a puppet. I think he's a puppet for the elite. We always hear him say, like, "Oh, these elitists," and then they'll point out George Soros. And I mean, I don't think George. You ever see George Soros? That's the evil demon there. That guy's about 140 pounds, and I mean, just having money doesn't make you an elitist. What is it? The Bilderbergs they point out too, and then that hey, Doug's, what's up? You come to bother me? Dougie's in there now. He just knows when I'm talking, and he come around. Yeah, the elitist, and so they got to point out these metaphysical elitists. The qualification to be an elitist is you have money. Well, Trump had money, and the Clintons have money, and the Bushes have money, and so I guess they all qualify in the same group of elitists. Well, we always know, what was that group there that met in California there? I can't remember. Hello, Father. No, I can't remember. It was like the Bilderberg group, and they met, and they had these they dressed up in like the cloaks and everything, and then they did that. That was kind of weird when it was all over YouTube a while back, and George Soros, super ghoul extraordinary. I'm just not a person that believes in I'm just really, I'm highly against fencing with dragons or making up a dragon in your head. We do that when we talk about feminism, and we make that into the dragon. We talk about liberals. Them liberals, they're their new dragon. They're going to put us all into socialism and Marxism and all that. I'm one of these people that I just, whoa, no, don't go down that route, because that's when it becomes a cult mentality. That's when it becomes the herd mentality. All these people start doing crazy things, and pretty much that's what we've seen with Hitler. He did that, and there was people, first rumblings about these evil people and the Jews and everything. They made the Jews into their. We see that nowadays, especially in Pittsburgh. There, it's like he went into. He really thought that these group of people, this group of people in this synagogue in Pittsburgh, of all places, this little city, that they were the enemy. I was like, ooh, that's pretty crazy. But that's what people do. They'll tailor it down to that's what psychopaths do. I say psychopaths are no matter what, they often turn people that are close to them into the enemy, because there's nobody else. So that whatever they could see or see around them. And since there's a synagogue right over here. If I'm one of those people, I can make them. That's where the root of all the evil is, right at that synagogue. It's like, that's crazy. That's crazy. I used to laugh at this lady at work. We were she used to do this bubble pack stuff, and she was always paranoid when the first war in Iraq started. She was like, she was terrified. She thought that somehow these Iraqis, and right after 9/11, she was terrified that they were going to come to our company in this building and they were going to bomb it. It's like, I used to laugh at her, and I used to try to get her going. I was like, did you feel that? Did you see an airplane? Get her going. And she'd go, and she'd be terrified. Most of her life was spent being terrified. She was the same kind of person that watched, crime scenes investigation on TV, and she's looking out, there's evil rapists. The crime scene people told me on TV, that Marissa Hardiskay and the crime scene investigation, all those shows are about, men raping girls and violent men and everything. And if you watch that too long, I had to stop my mother from watching that stuff too, because she started believing that like there's all rapists out there and everybody's a rapist. All men are rapists. And I was like, don't worry, Mom. I'm not going to let the rapist get to you. I'm pretty big, I'll have to come through one of these. And she's like, oh, thanks, Joey. It's like, but that's, old people and senile people and crazy afraid people do that too. Fear is one of the things in the world. Xenophobia and fear go hand in hand. You develop an enemy, you make this whatever is in close to you into the enemy. When you get all psychopathic like that, fear will drive people crazy too. You can get people in the Bible, it says thou shalt not fear, for a reason, because people that are afraid of other people, and xenophobia is that thing where they're afraid of other people. They do crazy shit. They might be hiding behind I had this I used to have to do this job. We would replace, I was selling, at the time I was selling Moen faucets, and Moen faucets, I put the two hoses in, and the apartment owners, I could keep the price by buying bulk down to a level. So I charged, like, at the time, I can't remember, like $56 to put a faucet in, and I'd get my Sawzall and I would just cut the old faucet off, drop it down, hook the pipe, and I'd be in and out of there in like 10 minutes. And the apartment owners used to pay me. But one of the things that was the problem was fear of people. And you'd hang up your thing on this floor level 1, 2, and 3. We're changing out all the faucets, and we put it in the hallway a week before. And some people haven't left their apartment in a week. That was the problem. So the problem was I had a master key. I get up to the door, and I would say, okay, the guys that were with me, I say, stand to the left side of the door. We're going to open this door. And then I push it open and say, hello. And a lot of the times, like a vase or an arrow or a knife, they would throw a knife at me, and I'm like, I'm not an intruder. You should have read the sign. So fear, people do crazy things when they're fearful. And I've had knives thrown at me. I had a bullet come through. Some guy let his dog, which was totally not supposed to have. It was this big dog. I opened the door, and there was this big head. It was about this big. It was one of those pit bull big ones. Yeah, he's like, go get him. And it's like, I'm just trying to replace your faucet, dude. Yeah, it's going to be great. You get a new faucet. And but he never read the sign, so he's fearful. He's hiding in his apartment. And sometimes they do have reasons why they're fearful, because they're smoking crack and or doing drugs or selling stuff. And it was an awful job. I did that for like 2 years, and I don't know how many times, thousands and thousands of faucets. We got so good at it after a while that it was crazy. We're crazy fast on that. I'd keep my helper. My helper would just jump and he'd run, and he'd take his wrench and just boom and push it up, and I would sawzall it off. And it took like 2 seconds. I dropped a new one down, he'd get it, and then within 10 minutes we were in and out of the apartment. And we put a new aerator, and I put a new aerator in the bathroom, and I put a new aerator on there, and it was a low fall. The deal about that was it would reduce the water use for the apartment. So in a year, he's going to make back his money. And I made like 20-30 bucks because I bought the faucets in bulk. I bought like 3,000 of them. So, but fear does, I've had things just thrown at me, shot at me, dogs let loose at me, all because they didn't read a sign and they're fearful of other people. I was the enemy at that point. They made me into the enemy, and fear does crazy, crazy things. I once had we got this bar fight once, and we went with like 4 or 5 guys, and then it was the St. Patrick's Day brawl. It was my fault. I think I did something, and that was my fault. I'll take blame for that one. And and the one guy that I'd come with, he was just this little guy, and he was great. He was just crazy afraid that he was going to get hit. So I turned around, and I was like, yeah, I was fighting this one guy, and then I turned around, and then he punched me. The guy I came with punched me in the face. He was so crazy afraid of everything. And I was like, dude, calm down. You just punched the guy that you came with. And then my brother co-cocked him, and he sent him into La La Land for that. But that was kind of fun. We always have fun like that. But fear. And you can see this fear nation we have now. The news, and you get saturated with all this garbage, and you read all this garbage. If you internalize all that stuff, you're going to be a very fearful person. There's these evil liberals, and these evil Jews, and these evil feminists, and there's always some enemy that you have to have according to these people that draw up an enemy. Now imagine a world where I don't believe in enemies. I don't believe that there's these enemies out there that are plotting against me right now. And they're writing down, and they're like, Joe, they got like stuff hanging on their walls with my picture on it. And that's crazy. And it's that they're coming to get me. But that's where that kind of stuff goes. I think that's where this Pittsburgh shooter and this recent bomber, they started believing in all this garbage that gets flooded onto them every day. And then there's the group mentality, and the group provided him with some kind of bonding union with other people, so obviously it's a powerful thing, and we have to watch out for that in America. We've had groups during the years that did all sorts of crazy things, cults, with the Jonestown, the Jonestown cults, and the Koresh cult, and they locked themselves up with rifles inside of in their church, and they honored like Jesus, and Jesus said that they're the evil people. I wonder I never really looked to see who David Koresh made into the enemy in that kind of cult situation. Hello, Prune Juice. Hello, Sky. Hello, Father. Yeah, who did David crush? Were there just evil people out there that they needed to protect themselves from, and the fear drove them inside this community and stuff like that. I would hate for Mgtow to go down that road where we draw up all these enemies. You know, there's the Libbies, and then there's the Jews, and there's the there's the women's, and there's the feminists, and there's Bilderbergs underneath those with elitists, and that's a lot of enemies to have. And I mean, you must be walking around every day going like, oh, geez, you know, I got all these enemies, and they got my picture in there, and they get my picture on the wall, and it's linked to like Prue Juice Power and Father No, and there's these strings they got, and then they build this enemy wall of enemies that they're going to have to get rid of. Yeah, I suppose there may be one Mgtow out there that there's a million of people already blaming the Jews. let's find another scapegoat. Yeah, let's find another scapegoat. Let these people just, man, let's let them rest for one day. Yeah. So I wonder who the next scapegoat is going to be for hate. You know, right now it's a lot, and they're just it's gone too far with the alt-right. And it's gone too far with those people already. They're shooting people. They're sending bombs to people, and this is what we need to have a government for. Because like I said back when I first started this, I'm a tradesman. I'm a pro trade union guy, so that makes me like a moderate Democrat. So I don't want nobody sending me a bomb in the mail because I believe in strong unions because it forts slavery away. You know, it's one person working for. I think them are the elitists, the people that want to just, you're going to make this amount of money, no matter what you are, you're going to make this amount of money, and you weren't invited into the club in the upper room. So you're going to make this amount of money, and that's it, buddy. Sorry about it. You're a slave. That's slavery. That's why we have trade unions, and I believe in trade unions. I believe in sovereignty, male sovereignty. This is how we fort. This is how we do a pretty good job in America forting slavery, because otherwise, you know, the rich people, they would deal, the real elitist, you know, they'd be like, okay, I'm going to pay you $4 an hour, and you Asian people and you brown people, we're going to pay you $2 an hour because, you know, that's just the way it is. And you'll have to accept that if you didn't have a trade unions and people that would, like me, that are willing to fight for your right to negotiate fair pay. Oh, so that's what I wanted to talk about today: slavery, male slavery, and you can see how male slavery. And I always thought that you know, Mgtow is really progressive. So I hear these people going, you know, those progressives. You know, Mgtow is super progressive. We don't believe in marriage. We believe that we're sovereign males, so we're anti-slavery. We're not going to get married because we don't want to end up being a slave to another person. That's really fucking progressive, guys. They don't want you. They want you back on the farm, and that's what the farm reference is. So when these guys call these progressives, you know, it's like, yeah, you're one of them too, buddy. You're very progressive. If you're a Mgtow, you're really super progressive. And I think they want to get rid of us. I'm watching a slow tailoring back of what it can. The levels of Mgtow is, like I said earlier, was listening to LFA, and his level 1 and 2. They resemble a lot like the blue pill guys out there. I mean, you can date, you can get married, you can have long-term relationships. You know, all you have to do is be aware of some Mgtow thing, and you're in the club. It's like, no, that sounds a lot like the blue pill world that I left. And maybe we need a better analogy to what these people are. I mean, these people are sheep. They're doing the herd mentality. They are all the conformists. They're not progressive in their thinking. they're just doing what the dad got married, so I'll get married, and my uncle's married. Everybody's married, so I'll just find this perfect woman, and everybody tells me there is this girl. No, they're all the same. All of them are the same. They're a wall. And there are no special unicorns out there that was made for you. I mean, you got to be pretty stupid to believe in it. Oh, she completes you or something. I hear that one a lot. I'm like, oh my God. I heard a guy say that in a bar a few months ago. I was sitting there. I was having I think it was a quesadilla, chicken quesadilla. And I was, having a pop or something for lunch break. And the guy was like, oh man, you got a girlfriend. She's like, yeah, she completes me. I was like, dude, you know how weird that is. But Joe Buddy says, I'm married but aware. Yeah, you're aware. You're aware, Joe. I'm LFA's Mgtow. I know. You're married, Joe. Joe, yeah, you're a Mgtow supporter. You're an orbiter. Female nature doesn't have an off. No, female nature doesn't have an off switch. It's just female nature is female nature. There's hypergamy. There's gynocentra is not female nature. There's hypergamy, and there's what they do. And I always try to explain it very logically. And to women don't have honor. I hear these guys. Every guy that ever his wife ever screwed around him on him, and that happens a lot. Girlfriend. Most guys have had a girlfriend that has screwed around on him, and he was sitting there, and and the next thing I hear out of their mouths is she had no honor. And I think, and I said, no, they never had any honor. They don't have honor. Honor is a mechanicism that's male only. It's a mechanicism of human. If you read Cohen and Nesbitt and Cohen's Southern Honor, which is taught in every school in the United States, at least, they'll tell you that no, females don't have honor. What they have is conscience by concern. There was a point after you could see it somehow after the blight in Ireland, and after the Civil War, women develop honor, but it's a mechanicism that is easily they get rid of it as fast as it comes on and everything. So no, they don't have honor. There's nothing there. They have biological imperatives to breed, collect resources, and get the best deal they can, and have conscience by concern. Conscience by concern is a monkey branch, and you guys can call it whatever neat name you want to call it. But it's conscious by concern. That's what it is, if you look it up in a very scientific way. That's another Sandmanism. Monkey branching. Yeah, monkey branching. He gets a couple of those things wrong, too. What's he call it? He calls it the chameleon effect, too. It's not the chameleon effect. Women do not change their color, and that would be like every woman is what was that crazy broad that changed her color of her skin? Dozel. What was her in the first name? Something Dozel. Yeah, she was the only female chameleon. It's called, what it really is interspecific human mimicry. It's gathering and stuff, interspecific human mimicry. I did a thing, Berkeley, they do a good thing in Berkeley about this. Interspecific human mimicry is a female mimics group to gain resources from the group. That's what happens when your group, you have your peer group, and the woman comes around, she's mimicking the behaviors that those specific people in a group, whether you can look at this and you can look at this in groups and then see it. You can see interspecific human mimicry and in groups, and then you can see the female. Marla was a good Marla in Fight Club. That's what we liked, Fight Club, because Marla, remember, she was she was doing interspecific human, where she was mimicking the group of whatever group it was for the resources, and one of the resources was the companionship of the group, and free coffee, donuts, and that sort of stuff. That was that. I'm not going to go too deep into that. Mgtow Sky says he's a trans black woman. That's I don't know if I believe you. That was a Dozel. I can't remember her name. Something Dozel. She was the white girl that said she worked for the NAACP. That was an interesting case of an actual chameleon. Father No says, I was in psychologist 12 years, 12-year-old girl. Yeah, you can be anything you want to be. Yeah, that's the special. Yeah. Oh, I'm just a 50-year-old tank bird. It's a joke. Yeah, I know it's a joke. Her Joe Buddy, her first name was Rochelle. That's it, Rochelle Dozel. I should know this one because I should know this one, but I've just forgot. Rochelle Dozel. Yeah, Dozel. I forgot how you pronounce it, and I did a research on it to see how you pronounced it in Polish. It's a Polish name. But yeah, she thought she was a true chameleon. She can blend in and be whatever she wanted anywhere. No xenophobia. That was almost heartbreak. It was like I thought about, God, they fired her, but she was the typical example of I mean, that's what they want you to be. That's what they want everybody to be. These things that these special boys where you can be anything you want to be. You can be a pink balloon if you want to be. You can marry dolls if you want to be. And there's a Japanese guy, he just married his pillow. Did you see that one? He has this girl pillow, the huggy pillow. Did you see the huggy pillow? He married it. I was like, how sweet. Sweet, buddy. I like to marry my gun. I keep it on my bed, and I keep my gun on the pillow next to me, like right there on the pillow. And I'm like, good night. I love you. Safe. Be safe. Sweet dreams, gun. And I just keep it right there on my pillow next to me, and it makes me feel all warm, and it's like I just hug up next to it. Some days I just hug my gun. I'm like, oh, I love you so much. Take care, Neil. Headed off to bed. You always head off to bed about this time. Yeah. So that was my little rant today about male slavery and everything. You can't go into a divorce court and get penalized to be a slave to one other person without pre-committing a crime. That was my point. And your crime was that you're a man, and you made a female unhappy, and now you have to take care of that for the rest of your life. That is your crime. So you broke a law. And there's this reverse Shia law in America that's don't talk about it. That being a male and not and making a female unhappy is now the crime. And so you probably hear the term, I made her unhappy. That's why they were. That must have been it. It must have been it. That must have been my crime. And yes, that's why it is. Because otherwise, the judge could not, without being duly convicted, give you the penalty of being a slave. So it breaks the 13th Amendment, and then they break the 14th and the 17th, I think, too. Somebody said they break 5 of them, but I don't know all 5 of the, when they arbitrarily penalize men for divorce and to take care of the strong girls, because, God knows they don't need to be taken care of because they're so strong and empowered. You would think so, but yeah, that was your crime, guys. If you didn't know that, your crime was being a man. And that's all I wanted to talk about today. And I wanted to talk about that levels of Mgtow bullshit. No, either you're a Mgtow or you're not a Mgtow. If you're looking to get into a long-term relationship and you want to get married, you're not a Mgtow. You could be a Mgtow supporter and or a Mgtow orbiter, but you're not a Mgtow because you're still living on the farm because you don't believe that you don't believe that you already committed a crime, and you don't believe that all women have a gun in the room that they can use on you at any time. It may be an invisible metaphysical gun, but she could pull that out at any time. She got 6 shots in there. She's got rape. She's got violence. She's got false accusation. It depends how many she puts in there, how many bullets she wants to fire at you. You could be abusive. You can be a lot of things, and they just have to trust her. Yeah, and she fires that, and then your life turns to dust. Whatever you had turns to dust, and now you're a slave. And I was a slave for a lot of years. Slavery is awful. Which brings us to the last question: What extent are you willing to go? To what extent is Mgtow willing to go? And that's the thing. Under the law, if someone tries to make another person a slavery, it carries a penalty of 5 to 50 years or something. But they don't enforce it for men. They're allowed to make us slaves. So, but as a slave, we get examples from history. What extent are you willing to go to stop this thing? And that's the question that all Mgtows should ask themselves. Are you one of those rah-rah girls like LFA? Anybody can be a Mgtow, and we're all just going to be all happy and get along in here and everything. And anybody, even married men and dating men and PUAs and all those guys and all the MRAs are all Mgtow. Everybody's a Mgtow. And we're all going to get along, and this is going to be great. But what extent are you willing to go to stop slavery? Male slavery, modern day slavery. What extent does the law permit for that? Nobody wants to answer that question. If somebody tried to make another person a slave, what extent could the other person that was trying to be enslaved, that's trying not to be enslaved, go to thwart off their captive, their master or their slave, the one that wants to make them a slave? What extent would you go to? And I think that's the question you have to ask yourself as a man. Father, no, what extent would you go to Mgtow Sky? Well, what extent, if somebody wanted to make you a slave, what extent would you go to? That's the extent that your Mgtow would permit you to go to. Would be revolt. Yeah, prune juice flower. When you look at what I always say, the penalty for slavery is always death. Every time with the Civil War, there was a lot of death. With the Ottoman Empire, there was a lot of death. With the Egyptian Empire that enslaved the first Jews, and then with the what was that? The Ottoman were enslaving the Christians, and there was death. And what extent would you be willing to go as a male? But I don't think some of these level 1 and level 2 and these MRAs, they're volunteering for their slavery when they say, "Oh, I'm going to go date. I'm going to get into these long. I might even get married," and they're volunteering. They're still volunteering for that slavery. As long as we have men that are still volunteering for that, we have, a lot of the slave positions are going to get filled, but as long as they're doing that, the elite are going to consider, well, what's, everybody else is doing it. Why aren't you? What, are you crazy? And I say, no, I'm a sovereign male. I'm a Mgtow. That's what Mgtows are. Mgtow itself is a statement. Men going their own way, not walking away. We're going our own way is a statement of sovereignty. So I'm saying, no, I'll just bypass that getting into slavery shit. And then you can go to hell. And then he comes back and he goes, well, you have to. And but what extent would you go to thwart him off? Would you use physical violence? Would you use, it's always been the same as from all the history before us. It always ends up in the same thing. So that's the question that I ask Mgtow. And if anybody argues with that, I get a lot of arguments about that. Like, oh, you're just a rebel rouser, Joe. You're just an anarchist. And I said, no, I'm a sovereign male. I want to protect that. I want to keep my house. I want to keep my lifestyle. I don't want someone taking that and turning me back into a slave again because I lived through that. Uh, and that's valuable to me, and it should be valuable to each and every one of yous. It should be, how valuable is it? Is it like, oh, well, we're just going to acquiesce? Mm-hmm. No, Mgtows don't acquiesce to anything. Mgtows don't acquiesce. Mgtows don't volunteer for slavery. Mgtows don't volunteer for those things that will present risk in their lives. We talk about all these things all the time. But I mean, we have terms for them too. and that's what the Mgtow philosophy is. But if you take on this philosophy, I hear some people go, oh, it's just a philosophy, like it's not important. No, it is important because it has to do with your very freedom. Your very freedom is under attack, men, because right now, in most countries, as soon as you hit a divorce court, you've already committed a crime of making a female unhappy. The judge that's gynocentrism. He looks at you like you committed a crime. And he punishes you with slavery. Are any of you willing to fight for this a fight against this? That was always my question in Mgtow, and all I get is these LTR guys and everything. Oh, Joe, you're just an anarchist. You're just that way. You're mean. You're a meanie. And then I see the alt-right. All they care about is like Trumpism. And I ask them, what are you willing to do to keep out of that slavery? And they go, well, that's not important. It's like, well, you're not a Mgtow then. That's the Mgtow philosophy. And if you don't understand that, then you're not a Mgtow. That's why I say either you're a Mgtow or you're not a Mgtow. There's a lot of men's right activists. They think they can fight against that. They think they can fight against that. But they fight against, you're fighting with words against people that are willing to really force you into slavery with bullets and guns and thugs. So what extent are you willing to go? Nobody? Nobody's along with me on this one? Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I always get. Nobody's along on this one. As soon as the push comes to shove, nobody's going to stand up for their rights. Nobody's, oh man, there's this, they'll kill you, Joe. They're going to kill me anyways, sooner or later. They're going to work me to death. They're going to put me in prison if they can, in the prison industry, the daddies for cash prison industry. But that's what Mgtow was always about. Mgtow was about, creating this group where we've had this group that could it would present force to the people that were presenting force to men. And then we had this group to stand up for other men. And then once we would do this, it would say, no, we're not taking that anymore. We're not gonna volunteer for slavery anymore. We want to be sovereign males. We don't want to do that tradition. We don't want to do your traditional slavery thing. Is it okay with you? And I'm not asking permission to be a Mgtow. I always say that. Nobody understands that. I'm not asking you for permission not to want to be a slave. But most Mgtows aren't willing to even get in a verbal conversation anymore. We got these level 1s and level 2. They're like, ooh, do I get split V? If I do Mgtow, do I get split V? And I think some of the PUAs have figured out that playing coy, you say, I'm a Mgtow, and you play coy, and you tell a girl that, she wants you more. Which is stupid. It's just validating. That's just another way of validating your through. Why does it always come down to these guys with the split V? They got like, I look at the Mgtow videos every day, and I go down them, and it's like, well, why are you guys even talking about the women and how to date and stuff like that? That's not important. The important part is We have, 24 million men in slavery right now under law, and they're penalized, and they're duly convicted for being a man. That's the problem. And like I said, what was predecessor to that? Nothing. You just walked in. You said, I've been served these papers for divorce, and you were already guilty. That gave the judge the ability to put you in slavery to another person. One person working for another person without pay is slavery. Yes. Yes, it is. That was my point today. So, I think all Mgtows should ask that question. What extent are you willing to go to? What extent are you willing to proclaim your sovereignty, be a Mgtow, do something about this? Don't pass it down to your sons. Don't pass it down to the next generation. Are you going to be one of these level oneers? Like, does a split V come with that? Because that's all I'm really worried about. Yeah. Mgtow is almost pathetic anymore with those people. Yep. And that's all I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to get out. I just got a phone call. I probably got some paperwork to do now. And I'm going to get Dougie settled down for the night, and I'm going to finish up my Sunday work and think about things a little more. Think about my Mgtow and, what I can do to help. And that's it. And you know what you can do? You help. Just be a Mgtow. Just be a good Mgtow. And that's it. Most of the time, I thank each and every one of you most of the days when I end these things with thanks for being a Mgtow. And then I end it. I do that for a reason. But that's what it's all about. It's about being providing force back on this thing, which really has this thing, whatever it is. Well, it's just a government. It's a state forcing their will on you. And you have to either volunteer for slavery or they will inflict slavery on you in so many ways. I'm a big advocate of trade unions, and that forces away that, and it gives us power, and be a part of the thing that empowers men. Mgtow empowers men. Trade unions empower men over the state. If we group together as a group, a large group, then we have force, then we have power. And that's what this thing's about. And with that, I'm going to let you guys go. Like always, thanks for being Mgtow.